Hello everybody, welcome to another session of HPHG. We have analyzed syntactic categories and trees in terms of feature structures and defined well-formedness in terms of rules and principles. In this video, we will see how meaning can be represented in HPHG. We'll be looking at semantics versus pragmatics, linguistic meaning, semantic structure and predication. Language is used for many kinds of communicative purposes like requests, directions, commands, questions, and so on. So some sentences convey questions, some simple assertions, some other directives. Even a part of a sentence like the student sitting in the corner, which is an NP, right, refers to an individual. So sentences or parts of sentences, each of those things will convey some meaning. And if you are looking at communication to happen needs two components. One is linguistic component, another reasoning to meet the communicative purposes or communicative goals. Linguistic meaning is not complete or is not sufficient for communication. For example, if you look at a sentence like, can you close the door please? Can you close the door please? It is not a question. It is not just a factual question too. Like you get an answer like yes or no. It is a request. It may assume that there's a lot of noise outside. It is disturbing us. So, can you please close the door? Or it may mean it is very cold outside. There is a lot of cold breeze coming in. Can you please close the door? It may have several communicative functions. So, the only linguistic meaning is not sufficient for a communicative function. And the linguistic meaning is dealt with in semantics and communicative functions are dealt with in pragmatics. And we are interested in linguistic meaning, how to represent linguistic meaning in HPHG. When I say linguistic meaning, we are going to deal with utterances, and any utterance, it may be an assertion, a question, a command, right? It refers to a situation or an event. So all utterances refers to a particular situation or an event. For example, let's consider a proposition, John is running. When we say John is running, it refers to that there is a situation, yes, and that situation, yes, is a running situation. And the runner, in the running situation there is a runner. And that runner is some individual I. And that individual I is named as John. And the situation S is temporarily located around the time of the utterance. And remember, only when everything of this is true, then the proposition becomes true. That means there should be a real situation, yes, and that should be a running situation. There should be an individual I in that situation, and that I should be called John, and that situation must be temporarily located around the time of the utterance. All this must be true, only then the proposition becomes true. So, an important part of the business of semantics is specifying truth conditions, such as these, right? Situation, individuals who are participating in the situation, and the location, time, location. So, specifying restrictions which must be satisfied by particular situations in order for assertions about them to be true. Restrictions which we specify must be satisfied by that particular situation. Only then the proposition will be true. Now, Let's see how those restrictions can be specified in HPSG. We know that each part of the sentence, for example, in the sentence John is running, where you have three words, John, which is a noun, verb is auxiliary, and then the another verb running. These three parts contribute to the meaning of the sentence, right? They contribute meaning. When I say they contribute to the meaning of the sentence, that means they contribute to the set of constraints which we have seen. That is, there is a situation which is a running situation, there is an individual who is John, and that situation is happening at the around that utterance, around the time of the utterance, right? And then grammars should specify how these propositions are built up from the substructures of the sentence. We shall follow the same procedures which we followed in building a tree, a categorical tree. Remember, we used feature structures to build the tree. Similarly, we use the same procedure for constructing semantics of phrases. That is, we will have feature structures for semantics too. When we look at the semantic objects of a grammar, those semantic objects have to be classified into 4 semantic modes. That is, there are 4 basic kinds of meaning which have to be enumerated. What are those 4 basic kinds of meanings? You can see them in the table: proposition, question, directive, reference. Proposition is illustrated by non-inverted sentence. A question will have an inverted sentence. Directive will have an imperative clause or imperative sentence. A reference will be a noun phrase. And you have all the examples here. John is happy is a proposition. Is John happy is a question. Be bold is an imperative, is a directive. And Hyderabad is a noun phrase which has reference with it. Okay, let's see how we're going to implement this in HPSG. To achieve the classification which we have seen, that is 4 kinds of meanings in the previous slide, we need to have all linguistic expressions to be specified in terms of feature structures, which will have at least 3 features. What are the 3 features? A semantic mode which we have seen, which is nothing but either proposition, question, directive, or reference. Then there shall be an index. What does index do? Index corresponds to the situation, or index corresponds to an individual. If the semantic mode is reference, then the index corresponds to an individual which we refer to in that situation. Then the third feature is a restriction. Restriction is a list, basically. It specifies list of conditions that the situation or the individual must satisfy in order to make the proposition or in order to make the expression true. So the conditions mentioned here have to be satisfied by the situation or individual. Thus, a semantic structure looks like this. A semantic structure will have 3 features: mode, index, and restriction. Of the 3, restriction is a list. Okay, let's go further. Let's see. A proposition will be true only when all the conditions which are specified earlier, that is a situation, an individual in the situation, and the situation which is a running situation, and the individual is called John, right? And the individual occurs around the time of the utterance, right? All of them have to be true. Only then that proposition is true. So to say that, mode is a proposition, and we have index, that is a situation S, right? Situation, we are indexing it as S here. this S has to be true, and that has to be a running situation, and this situation has to satisfy the conditions given in the restriction. Restriction will have conditions like it's a running situation, there should be an individual, it should be uttered at the time of the situation should occur at the time of the utterance, etc., etc. All those conditions will come as a restriction. We'll look at them in the next slide. Right? So what we are saying here is a proposition will have mode, value, proposition, and index refers to a situation. Similarly, a question will have the mode question and index again situation S. Whether it's a proposition or a question, there will be only a situation. When I say, is John happy? That is John happy, the question occurs in a particular situation. Right? So, whether it is a proposition or a question, there is a situation. That's the S we are giving as index. Similarly, directive will have mode value directive and index value S. Reference is different from these three in that index is a situation where there is one individual which the reference refers to. Right? But however, all the four have conditions to be satisfied which are given in the restriction. Okay. Now let's see what restriction is. Restriction is specified under predication. So conditions associated with a particular linguistic expression are the conditions which the situations or the individual to satisfy. So the conditions are basically a list. Right? All linguistic expressions satisfy certain conditions, and those conditions have to be satisfied by the situation or the individuals. Only then that proposition or question, whatever it is, that utterance basically becomes true. Right? So in terms of analysis, it means that it will be particularly important how individual words contribute to the values of the feature restriction. So each word in the sentence contributes a value, and that value is given here in the restriction. That value in the sense, that condition, as a condition. Let's see how it works. Let's say there's a verb like love. Right? Verb like love is a relation. It's a relation between two objects, two semantic objects. Right? How? That verb like love creates a situation, yes, and then there is a lover and loved. The relation love is between these two. Lover I, loved J. Okay? Between I and J, there is a relation love which creates a situation S. Similarly, if you have a verb like walk, it's a event where there's walking. That's the relation is walk. And walk creates a situation S. And in that situation, there is a walker, individual. So this individual is walking, is involved in that. Right? That's a relation. Similarly, if you consider a ditransitive verb, give, the relation is give. The give relation has three individuals: giver, a recipient, and a gift. The situation is created is S, in which you have I, the giver. The relationship between I and J is I is the giver and J is the recipient. and I gives K to J. That is the predication which we have. This is in relation to verbs which create a predicate, right? How about non-verbs? That is nouns, adjectives, and prepositions. The restriction associated with many nouns and adjectives, right, like book, happy, etc., includes a predication of only one argument, which is a non-situation argument, right? They will not have a situation argument, they will have a non-situation argument. In such cases, we use the feature instance, right? We use the feature instance. We don't use, as we used, lover, loved, or walker, giver, recipient, etc. So, if you consider a noun like book, the relation, it's a book, and then it occurs in a situation, and there is one instance of that. One instance of book in that situation. Okay? Similarly, when you say happy, the adjective, in a situation happy, in a situation yes, the instance I occurs as happy. That I is happy. Whoever that I is happy. And if you consider a preposition like under, the relation is under. In that situation, yes, I is lower, J is higher. That means I is under J. I is under J. So I is happy. I is a book here. Here I occurs under J. Right? This is the predication which we have. Okay? These actually contribute to the restrictions. See, look at the verb love, walk, give, and the noun book, the adjective happy, and the preposition under. These words and these features contribute to the conditions in the relation. Right? How? Take a sentence like a boy loved a girl. When you say a boy loved a girl, it's a statement, we know that. So it's a proposition. So, if it's a proposition, the semantics of the sentence, in the semantics of the sentence, or the semantic feature structure of the sentence, mode will be proposition. Right? Mode value is proposition. And index, it has a situation. What is the situation? That situation is the situation which is created by the verb love. So relation is love. The situation is yes. And in that situation, two individuals, lover and loved. Lover is I, loved is J. So I loves J. And in that's the situation. It's a loving situation. Okay? Who is I? I. Now look at boy. The word boy occurs in a situation. Yes. What is the situation here? Sit. The situation, the love. And the instance, there is one instance of the boy. I is the boy. I is boy. And another noun, girl, which occurs in the situation S, and that instance is J. So J is the girl. Okay. Now we see that the words boy, girl, and love contribute to the meaning. What is the meaning? I, which is boy, J, who is a girl, where I loves J, that is boy loves the girl. Okay? Boy loved a girl. So that meaning is obtained by the three words which we have here. Then we must be wondering what's happening with the word a a word a here in girl, in a girl. They are determiners, right? They contribute a different kind of meaning, which we are not looking at it now, right? So basically the word noun, whatever the boy conveys, goes up to the phrase a boy. A boy consists of two daughters. One is a determiner daughter, another a nominal daughter. The nominal daughter will have boy, that is the head daughter, and you have boy's value, whatever boy's value, that is given to the NP a boy. Similarly, the features of girl will be specified to the phrase a girl, right? So anyway, what we see here is the conditions on S. What is S? The situation, love, come from the verb love. The lover must be a boy and the loved must be a girl. The linguistic meaning of the sentence is a proposition, right? The linguistic meaning of the sentence is a proposition. That will be true only when there is a situation, actual situation, that is a loving situation, in which there is a boy and there is a girl, right? Okay. What we have seen here in this video, is that the semantics is also represented in terms of feature structures, and semantics we deal with only linguistic meaning. So we are not interested in pragmatics now, and linguistic meaning is obtained from the constituents of a sentence, and the linguistic meaning refers to situation, whatever be the situation, and whoever participates in the situation as individuals, and the names of the individuals, and the time of the situation. So semantic structure is formulated based on those, right? So semantic structure of a word or a phrase or a sentence consists of three features, particularly mode, index, and restrictions. And mode refers to the value, either proposition, question, directive, or reference. And then the index refers to the situation or individual. Then you have relation. Relation is nothing but the conditions, list of conditions which the situation or the individual must satisfy. Okay, let's meet in the next video.